California, but one of the things they looked at was how Californians feel about California itself. What would you say the poll showed you about that?
So we asked people what were the good things and what were the bad things about living in California. And this is part of us trying to and listening to people in their state, in the state of California, and really specific about the way life is there. Well, top answer for people statewide is the food, as well as the nature, the outdoors, the diversity in the state, its culture, and its weather. I will tell you, in the Bay Area, ratings for food as a good thing were even higher, right? Maybe no surprise to folks in the Bay Area about that. But look, the bad things about living in California, the cost of living was the #1 answer, and it was true throughout all regions of the state. And again, maybe no surprise in this part, the traffic. That was seen as a bad thing too. And I want to add, when you then go and look at whether or not people believe that the California dream is achievable or if they have achieved it, you see that a quarter say that they have. Those folks tend to be a little more affluent and they tend to be older. And then there's a little younger set that says they probably will still achieve it even if they haven't yet. There's folks who say, there's a third almost of folks who say that they probably won't. And this really relates to how well they're doing financially. The better off you are and the better your income and the better you think you're doing financially, the more likely you are to think that you've achieved or will achieve that California dream.
I notice in the polling, when you have the different categories, and the more affluent people are considered to be people making $100,000 a year or more. But when you talk about that, even more than half of them think that the cost of living is unmanageable. So what is that, what did that tell us? What did that, that's pretty telling.
It is. California, as you know, as everyone knows, is an expensive state to live in. But we also wanted to know how that made people feel day to day. And that word manageable is perfect because there aren't very many people who said that they felt the cost of living was very manageable, just that 7% up there. And then you look at the people who said that it was somewhat unmanageable, even very unmanageable, and together you get a majority. Here again, we see this connected to your income levels, folks at lower incomes, but I should add that when you break this down, those brackets you mentioned, folks earning under $50,000 as a household, much more likely to say that it was unmanageable, but people in all regions of the state, and even people earning more than $100,000 a year for their household, said that half of them said that it was unmanageable too. And that just underscores the fact that a lot of people feel like whichever area they're in, that things are difficult in that sense, that the cost of living is high in California.
Is that leading to a sense of optimism or pessimism about the future for the state?
So here's the big and good news about the state. You get a majority of Californians who are optimistic about the future of the state, and that's 6 in 10. Now, if you break that down by age group, you also see that it's younger Californians who are especially likely to be optimistic. Older folks, still a half of them are when they look ahead for the next generation. So that's what's the good news. That's the good part of it. What you also see, though, is that I'll show you when we talk about whether people are moving, some moving out of the state, of course, some moving into it. Majority of Californians say that if they had their way, they would still live where they do now or live somewhere else in California. There is a third who say that they would leave the state if they had their choice. And here again, those folks are the ones who are who may be struggling or may be saying that the cost of living is unmanageable. Folks who are a little more affluent, doing a little better financially, they're more likely to say that they would stay where they are.
So to wrap it up, is this just kind of a matter that, California has so much to offer, but you better be willing to pay for it?
Well, look, there is no question in these data that how well you feel you are doing relates to your optimism, relates to your optimism about the state, and whether or not you think you'd stay, whether you've achieved the California dream. Yes, your finances really matter, and a lot of people think it's a very expensive place to live, but also see an awful lot of good things about it.
I know you also looked into the idea of the value of tech in this area and how people perceive that. What did the poll show us?
Yeah, everybody knows that California is a tech hub, right? Especially around Silicon Valley, around the Bay Area. Statewide, a big majority of Californians think having the technology industry in the state is good for California.
And conversely, you also talked about immigration and whether or not people saw value in that. What was the findings there?
That's right. Two things. One is that the fact that a lot of people see the state's diversity as a good thing, we have to underscore that. And then you look specifically at whether they think immigration has made the state better or worse, and you do get more numbers, higher numbers, saying that it has in fact made things better than made it worse. There are some partisan splits in this. Democrats a little more likely to be leaning towards saying it made it better. Republicans a little more likely to say that it's made things worse. But overall, better, more so than worse, and also the fact that the state is diverse is, for a majority of Californians, one of the good things about living in California.
Thank you for doing this. It gives us some idea of what we're thinking about ourselves, and I appreciate that. Anthony Salvanto, thank you so much for helping us.
Thank you.